Bernie Sanders' quote, "our revolution," unquote, has a main theme. It says that we need to transform our political and social institutions so that they serve all the people, not just the 1%. Well, I know this probably sounds at first blush to most people who read it like, hey, that's a good idea. But I want to explain why that message is profoundly misleading and actually constitutes very sophisticated ruling class propaganda designed to ideologically disarm ordinary people to prevent us from achieving the kind of society based on real equality and democracy that most of us, of course, want. So what's wrong with saying that we should transform our social and political institutions so that they serve all the people and not just the 1%? Here's what's wrong with it. There is a fundamental conflict between what many people call the 1%. It's the upper class of billionaires, the plutocracy that actually rules over us. There's a fundamental conflict between that upper class and ordinary people. Fundamental. The upper class wants society to be based on inequality, with an upper class that has vast wealth and power and privilege to control and dominate ordinary people, which in order to keep people in their place, the upper class has to constantly tell us that we're not as good as they are, that we're inferior in one way or another. And they have to treat us like dirt, which they do in countless ways, in order to try to make us accept our place at the bottom of a very unequal society. These are the aims and values of the upper class. They are the exact opposite of the aims and values of ordinary people who, when you ask them, as I have asked thousands of random people on the streets of Boston, when you ask, do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea to remove the rich from power, to have real, not fake democracy with no rich and no poor? People overwhelmingly, I'm talking 90%, say yes, it's a good idea or even a great idea. And it's not just liberals. I get the same positive response to this question when I went to a pro-Trump rally that was held in the Boston, in front of the Massachusetts State House in 2016, called by a local version of the NRA called the Gun Owners Action League, which was a rally of hundreds of people, all white, mostly wearing the Trump Make America Great Again hat and waving American flags and NRA t-shirts. And I showed them the image on this button, which says, let's remove the rich from power to have real, not fake democracy with no rich and no poor. I said, what do you think? Is that a good idea or a bad idea? Of the 50 random people I asked, 43, 86% said it was a good or a great idea. And when I offered them the button to have, those 43 people all took it gladly, and many of them pinned it on their shirt right on the spot. And this is a pro-Trump rally. I've gone to rural Vermont where people listen to Rush Limbaugh instead of NPR. Same response, positive response. Ordinary people want a profoundly more equal and democratic society. And in that regard, their aims and values are the exact opposite of the ruling plutocracy, which Bernie Sanders and other people refer to as the 1%, although it's probably much less than 1% that make up that plutocracy. So when Bernie Sanders says that we want the social and economic institutions to serve all the people, not just the 1%. What he's saying is, yeah, it should serve the 1%, but not only the 1%. But in order to have what most people want, we need to prevent the 1% from having what they want. In order for social and political institutions to serve the vast majority of people, they must absolutely not serve the 1%. And it's lack of clarity on that which enables the, quote, 1% to maintain its control over us. For example, in order to have genuine equality, which means no rich and no poor, you have to remove the rich from power, and that means taking away the undeserved vast wealth that they claim to own, the billions of dollars, which is what gives them, in our society where money is power, it gives them the power. We can pass more of those silly laws, about campaign contributions and supposedly taking money out of the elections, and we can even pass another tax code, make it more like it was in the Eisenhower years. But what good does that do? Obviously, it didn't keep the rich out of power. Look, they're totally in power today. When those silly laws and tax codes are passed, the rich get together and they laugh. They say to each other, boy, these new laws and regulations are going to fundamentally change the way we get around them. Because, of course, they do get around them. As long as a person possesses billions of dollars, one has the power to get around any silly laws and regulations. The billionaires know this. So when Bernie Sanders says, we have to tax the rich more, the rich say, fine, go ahead and change the tax code all you want. We've been there. We know how to get around it. In order to get the equality that we want, we need a movement that aims explicitly to have no rich and no poor. That means taking all the unearned, undeserved billions of dollars of wealth away from people like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, three people who own more wealth than the entire bottom half of the United States population, for crying out loud. And in order to take the wealth and power away from this ruling billionaire plutocracy, we need a movement that understands that our goal is the opposite of that plutocracy's goal. We're not trying to make institutions serve all of us. We're trying to make institutions serve the vast majority and not the exploiting, oppressive, dominating, ruthless, greedy plutocracy. But you see, Bernie Sanders is being used by that plutocracy to confuse us about this, to make us not understand explicitly what our goal is. And that, of course, prevents us from achieving it. You can't achieve a goal that the powerful people are opposed to if you can't even say clearly what the goal is. The ruling plutocracy understands this full well. It's time we did too. I hope you'll read the articles that I'm going to post at the bottom of this video that go into this more. And by the way, I live in Boston, Massachusetts, and if you live near there, contact me if you want to help build an egalitarian revolutionary movement for what we really need and want. And my contact information is also at the bottom of the video. Thank you.